Mic check. Check. 1, 2, check. Judge.
Check.
All right, here we go. We good?
We are delayed. We're good. Are we rolling?
We're live. All right, here we go. All right, guys, apologize for that. We're trying to get, what is it called, technical difficulties taken care of. Again, you know, this is our second in a row, you know, and that's every 2 weeks that we do it. But finally, we're back on a row, I hope. And, you know, still getting a little of the kinks out, but I think we're good to go. Today, again, we're going to change it up a little bit. And those of y'all who, you know, watch us, you know, religiously, you'll notice that we do a lot of UTRGV stuff. And the reason we do that, obviously, after the name Vaquero Up, we kind of try and stay within the realm. Hey, Sam. We try and stay within the realm of UTRGV and Vaqueros and so forth. So the name Vaquero Up doesn't necessarily mean UTRGV. It basically means cowboy up in the Spanish way. And when we first started this, Ben and I and George and Sam, you know, we talked about it, how Vaquero Up was going to also lead into, you know, kind of highlighting members of the community that have cowboyed up and said, hey, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go and do it.
Role models.
And, yeah, exactly. Role models, pillars of the community, people who are, you know, people that we can look up to and as example. And today I think is the first time that we're going to do that and pivot away from UTRGV. And we're going to go ahead and welcome Judge Omar Maldonado here. And, Judge, thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time, you know, to come on here.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for the invitation. It means a lot.
Stuff.
So, yeah. So, I mean, we always start off with the same question. Again, I said judge. Yes, I did say judge, guys. And, you know, kind of give us a little bit of the background. I know it's going to, you know, I'm sure it's a good story. But give us a little bit of the background of one, you always wanted to be a judge? Like, is this something you wanted to kind of pursue from the beginning?
So, to be honest with you, I you know, when I was at A&M, which is where I graduated from,
Okay.
I actually was looking at going into astronomy. And it's weird because I have this fixation with weather. I love watching the weather, studying, you know, weather and the stars. And it wasn't until I took a political science class that, you know, I did a complete 180 and said, I think I want to go to law school.
Wow.
And I think I want to become a lawyer. And so I think, you know, when I took that class, I think everything shifted. I think the whole paradigm of my future shifted. And so, you know, I went down the legal field and, you know, went to law school and, you know, graduated from A&M. You know, my background is I, you know, graduated from Edinburgh High School, played football at Edinburgh High School, was a center.
Who was your high school football coach?
Joe Vasquez. Coach Joe Vasquez. Coach Vasquez, yeah. So,
Shout out to Joe Vasquez.
you know, if you've been to Barrel House in the back, there's a picture that's in the back area in the bar. That picture there, I'm in it. Me and my partner in the restaurant are both in it, and it was taken the night that Edinburgh played Edinburgh North for the very first time.
1992. Oh, 92.
1992, yeah. That was the first game between Edinburgh and Edinburgh High. They snapped two pictures. They snapped a picture of us as we came out of the tunnel for the very first time, and they snapped a picture of Edinburgh North as they came out of their, we call it tunnels, right? But it was like the tarp, right? You were talking about the tarps. And so Edinburgh North's picture is still at their high school. It's in their gym and their weight room. And right after those pictures were taken, they were taken over to the HEB here on Klausner, and they were up there for about 12 to 13 years.
Oh, you're right. I remember that. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And so those pictures were up there. The Edinburgh High School picture was on the south exit. Edinburgh North was on the north exit as you walked out of the HEB. And so
At the original HEB.
At the original HEB. That's right. And so, you know, when Johnny Economides High School was built and opened up, I guess out of respect, if we had a third high school now in Edinburgh, they took the pictures down and they took it into the high school. And so then the high school had it. So Edinburgh High School had it in their athletic department. And then they were renovating the athletic department right around the time that we were building Barrel House. And one of the teachers, you know, approached us and said, hey, listen, there's this picture and they don't know what to do with it. Would you guys be interested in, you know, finding a place for it in your restaurant? And of course, I mean, we'd been looking for that picture because it had been taken down and we didn't know where it was. And so it was kind of, you know, meant to be that we then built the outside bar area of our restaurant around that picture because it had the sentimental value of A, it was the night that Edinburgh played Edinburgh North for the very first time, and B, me and my partner were both in that picture. And so we have the original picture there.
That's
So
awesome.
that's
That
the
is so
original picture. But
And
Who
again,
won?
they did.
Wait.
North.
Edinburgh North won?
North won
North won how
9-6.
many years in a row?
Oh,
It
come
was
on.
no, it was.
Was
Yeah.
it-
So
was
so
it-
so
It
here's
wasn't
the
until I got there.
yeah. So 9-6.
That you all lost?
No, I was part of that team, but it was my
Oh,
senior year.
okay.
Edinburgh North won 9-6. They went undefeated. We only lost one game to Edinburgh North, and then we both lost in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah.
And again, I'm going to kind of slow down on the story, but I know you mentioned the when North, and obviously I graduated 2000. When North opened up, was in elementary. The pride that we had going to North was just it was big, And I remember, and I tell my kids this all the time, like, you didn't wear red. Those were fighting words. You wore red, and something was going to happen. And this was like from 5th grade, 6th grade. Like, we already knew, like, no, we're going. And 6th grade campus, so we already had, like, oh, you're a Bobcat, we're a Cougar, whatever. Do you feel the pride in football, the pride in their school has lessened because of 4 schools? Or do you feel
now obviously now I wear, Vela, Sabercat stuff. So
yeah.
I think it's diluted in that respect, in the sense that, my kids are going to be going to Vela. My daughter's a drum major at Vela. So, of course, I went from wearing red and blue and being proud about wearing red and blue to now, being proud to wear the Sabercat colors of, blue and black. So I think it's diminished in that respect, that, the pride that you can inevitably have from one high school, the whole community coming together on a Friday night, to, now it's been splintered. And even if, even if you want to wear the red and blue, because your kids go to Vela, in my case, or North or any other school, I think it's diminished in that respect. So, that's what I think. I don't think the pride is, the fire of the community is there, because there's so many schools, and you don't rally behind one.
Yeah, and I can't tell my wife that all the time. I was like, man, I remember it was just North and South. That's what it was. It was like Civil War.
In middle school too. North and South.
Yeah. That's it. That's all it was.
Yeah,
and shit,
I
they called them
remember.
Redcats.
I was telling my son the other day. I said that Albertson's parking lot
Used to be jam packed.
I mean, it didn't matter what game it was. You played La Jolla, you played McAllen, especially you played Edinburgh North or against Edinburgh High. I mean, it was just jammed. I mean,
Everybody
exactly right.
filtered out through that Pizza Hut, and you had to walk through the Pizza Hut to get to Albertsons to be able to get to your vehicle, because
Edinburgh PD was directing
traffic.
Yep.
And not anymore. I mean,
Well, now they built the parking lot, now on
Bigger.
the east side,
Right,
it's
right.
bigger, and now people filter out in other ways. And so it used to be that after football games, there was a destination. You would,
Yes.
whether you went to Pizza Hut or whether you went to Whataburger, there was a destination of where you went. And now I just feel like there is not that. That doesn't exist anymore.
And that's kind of when I just this year, actually, when I kind of felt like it's diminishing, but for a good reason. Like you said, obviously my daughter, if my daughter chose to go to whatever, or we're zoned to Edinburgh High, then I'm going to be a pride Edinburgh High because of my kids, just the way you are. But after a game, we ended up going to the east side Whataburger, and I'm like, wait a minute, guys, we're wearing blue and gold. Like, you didn't do that, So like, but like, it was like, so who cares? Like, man, like we had our Whataburger
back in the day when you
Back
went
in
to
the
where
day.
you were zoned.
That's all it was. But it's funny, and I veer from the conversation. But yeah, I mean, when you brought up that picture, I remember it very clearly, and it did bring back that pride that we had, because that was, before I was in high school, but we would see it, and it's like, I mean, hopefully my picture will be up there.
And we take pride. I take pride, and my partner takes pride in making sure that we do our best to host the football teams for pasta night.
Nice.
And we invite all the high schools to come over and on us to have a pasta night there at Barrel House. Because when it was the Cubby Hole and my mom and dad ran the bar, we would have pasta nights on Thursday nights there in the back patio. It used to be a back patio, which is now our bar. But we used to do that. So to try to bring that tradition back and to also be able to talk to the kids a little bit about, how did we arrive at being, a physician and a lawyer? How did we arrive at being on that picture, but yet be able to go to college? And we both went to A&M, and then he went to medical school at Baylor College of Medicine, and I went to law school at Texas Tech. But, it started on a football field at Edinburgh High School. And that story, I think, resonates with kids because, right then and there, they're sitting there, in whether they're sophomores, juniors, or seniors, they were in the position that we were in 30 years ago. And so, how do we give back, and how do we encourage them to stay in school, stay focused when they go to college, make sure that they complete the tasks, but I tell them, it's like, look, the skills and what you're learning on the football field, the discipline that you're learning on a football field is what's going to get you up for an 8 o'clock class. It's what's going to drive you to the library on a Saturday morning. It's what's going to, drive you to want to be the very best. Because, I had a coach, Coach Jimmy Franz, who used to be our offensive line coach, and I talk about him a lot because he played such an important role in my development as a person, I think, because, he used to have this saying, and it was, you have to have a little bit of want to. And he used to say it with that little Southern slang of, son, you got to have a little bit of want to. You got to want to be somebody, and you got to want to win. And so when you start talking about want to, you got to encourage these kids these days to, want to get up from go to school. Yeah. You got to want to do the very best that you can. And so that's discipline that's built on a football field. But it's also, now I'm recognizing, being a band parent, that it's built on a band field too.
Oh, yeah.
And learning an instrument and being the very best at that craft, or on a tennis court, or on a swimming pool, or in the track field. I mean, I only bring the experience of being a football athlete in high school and nothing more after that. But I recognize that I knew that what I learned there, I was going to carry it over into the academic world of being, a lawyer. And now I see it through my daughter, that all the time and the effort that they put into, trying to be the very best. And of course, leading a band is what she's doing. So I'm very proud of her.
Well, good for her. And that shows a lot. I mean, and that's not easy at all. And ask me that question, if it's easy for a band or cheerleaders to do their thing 10 years ago. I'd say, well, I mean, come on, But now I have kids that have gone through the system of band and gone through the programs of cheer and gone through the programs of even golf. I mean, that's crazy. But one that doesn't see it and witness it, I mean, don't think much of it. Yeah. Like you said, you were a football guy. All of a sudden now we got kids that are involved in all this stuff, and you're like, oh, wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of hours.
A lot of hours. Hot.
Band is crazy. They don't go until 9. Yeah. Like at Edinburgh North, they're there till 9 o'clock.
And, it's one of those situations where it's like, I've been to some of their rehearsals, practices, it's like, okay, stop, do it again. Stop, do it again. And it takes a lot of mental fortitude to be able to just repeat and do it again and repeat and do it again. I mean, I guess to a certain extent we did that in football when it was, run the play again, and you're rolling around in dirt and,
Well, I'd like to think that it's a lot harder than what we did. We played sports. We had 4 quarters to figure it out, or 7 innings to figure it out, or basketball is periods or whatever that is. If you're down or you made a mistake, hey, get back on the field, make up for it. With band, you got 4 minutes to figure it out, and that's it.
That's it.
You don't got a second chance.
That's right.
Yep.
I mean, cheer. Fabian knows all about cheer. You go to a competition, your 2-minute routine is your 2-minute
2 minute.
routine. That's
it's
it.
your 2 minutes to shine. Any small hiccup, and another team is going to leapfrog you.
That's right.
And it's so awesome that you said that. I mean, because I think that, and again, even my own kids, and I try not to, but, they lose the sight of, and I think just our world right now, they lose the sight of what sports is about at that level, at the junior high level, at the high school level even. I know some kids are playing and fighting to get scholarships and things of that sort. But like I tell my kids, it's like, you're basically learning life. That's it. That's what it is.
That's
you're,
right.
You're learning life. You're learning how to work with people you may not want to work with. You're learning how to be that person where, I tell my son all the time, because he gets tired, like, well, they give me the ball 4 or 5 times in a row. Hey, you know what? If you're that guy that they're choosing, that should be a pride moment saying, hey, they're relying on me. Let's go make get it done. Same thing with my daughter. She runs track or whatever, and she's like, well, so-and-so, this and that. Like, you know what? Pick up their slack then. If you feel somebody is lacking something, then pick it up, because that's what's going to happen in the job force.
Inevitably, every student athlete in high school, their career, their season, whether it's the career meaning that they graduated, they're seniors, or that particular season, if they're underclassmen, is going to end in a way that probably will not end up in a state championship.
Yep.
And most likely, those kids are going to walk off the field with their head down. But one of the things that we need to remind them is that they've accomplished so much. They've done so much. And so what they've learned, the lessons that they've learned is, I guess they don't understand it at that age. And it's not until you become a parent yourself or you find yourself at the university level and you start to see that, the lessons that you learned on a football field are now translating themselves into the competitive world of being, like, for example, myself at A&M, when I'm competing with other very, very bright students from all over the country, really. And, you're competing in the classroom. And for me, it was about competing for the top grade in that classroom to get an A when you're, being graded on a curve, and to get into a law school that's super competitive, And then, so those are lessons that I try to teach my children, that, don't pick your head up. You learn something. Yep. You gain something. My son this year broke his wrist in football, and he's in 8th grade at South, and I made sure that he would get up to go to practice in the morning. And because they, now that the UIL has that heat policy, right. They were practicing at, 6 o'clock in the morning, but it didn't matter. I mean, he was going to show up to practice and be a part of the team. And I think that's part of the discipline that comes with making sure that they do that.
Good for you, and in thinking that way, and you're only instilling good morals habits and good habits and with your kids, so fantastic. Yeah,
but I mean, I guess to go back to the original question, right? So, my background is I graduated from Edinburgh High School.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We were talking about
that. Graduated from Edinburgh High School, then went off and got a business degree from A&M. Then, went to law school at Texas Tech in Lubbock. After graduating from Texas Tech in Lubbock, came back to the Valley, and I opened up my practice. And I never worked for anybody. I tell that to a lot of young lawyers. I said, I never worked for anybody. I got sworn in on a Saturday, and I opened up my shingle on a Monday. And the beautiful thing about me is that I office with my parents. My parents had a small accounting office, and it was so good to office with them because I got to see them every day. I got to be a part of, them a part of my life, me a part of theirs. Got married shortly after graduating from law school and becoming a lawyer. Practiced law for about 13 years. And then I ran for public office, and I ran to be a judge. And so I guess the original question was, did you always want to be a judge? And I think that, I always felt like coming back to the Valley was home. Like, no matter where you're at, there's this drive to come back home. And I think that that's what we need to instill in our children, because this brain drain that we talk about, that sometimes is talking about where kids, the really talented kids, leave and then never want to come back. Yeah. We have to instill the passion of the Valley, and we have to instill the passion of home, because, I still remember being in Lubbock, and there was one Walmart. There's 2 Walmarts in Lubbock, but one in particular on the opposite side of town of where I lived sold chorizo de San Manuel. And I needed to go there once a week to go get my chorizo de San Manuel, because I had to have that taste of the Valley, that taste of home. And so, I'd make chorizo and egg religiously, but it also kind of, brings me home. And so the drive to come back home was always there, and the drive to give back has always been there. And so I think that's what instilled me to want to run for public office. I tell people, and I tell, everybody who knows me knows that the 3 or 4 most difficult things I've ever done in my life has been first-year law school, which was the most difficult thing that I've ever done, because law school teaches you how to think differently, and the pressure that comes with first-year law school, because A, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. B, it's just a difficult, rigorous program when you're in law school, first year especially. I said studying for the bar exam was the second most difficult thing I've ever done. Running for political office, third most difficult thing I've ever done. And opening up a restaurant comes in at number 4. So, the things that kind of built me up to accomplish first-year law school, take the bar exam, run for political office, and then now open up a restaurant has been the 4 most important and most difficult things I've ever done in my life.
How long have you been in, as a judge?
So I got judge. I got sworn in January of 2015. So this January I will complete 10 years, and I'll be on the bench for 10 years. Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah,
so you've seen the growth of the county courthouse. I mean, population obviously, and I guess almost getting ready to move into the new county nest. What can you tell us from 10 years ago to today? I mean, how you see the county as a whole, the growth and.
I always encourage people, if you've never been involved in the system of the legal system, serve on a jury, and really get to know how the process works. Serve on a grand jury. If you can serve on a grand jury, you get to really serve and learn about kind of the crime and some of the areas of the county where our problems are coming from. So serving on a grand jury, serving on a jury really informs people and kind of sheds light about how our system of government works, number one. But I guess to answer the question, we've grown, right? So the county has grown. The county continues to grow. And with that comes the fact that, we needed a bigger courthouse, and we needed to grow because we had already outgrown our current courthouse, and we're in a portable building. So County Court 7 and County Court 8, which is I'm judge for County Court 8, we've been in a portable building, and I've been in a portable building since taking office 10 years ago, and the portable buildings were already in existence.
Oh, wow.
And so we're out in a portable building, but, we make do, and we're able to accomplish what we need to accomplish. But, when I came in, County Court 8 was the newest court. And so when I ran for office, it was a brand new court. So there was no judge there. And so I ran I'm the first judge to ever serve, elected judge to ever serve on County Court 8. And so then County Court 9 and 10 came along. And so, there's been growth even since I've taken over 10 years ago for the need, because of the county and the county's growth, that we had to create 2 more courts in the last 10 years. So.
Wow, that's just 10 years. I mean, I can imagine. And you can see the growth. I mean, it's obvious that, but again, we don't see the part that you guys see. And one thing that stuck out is again, goes back to your tenacity and to how you just kind of, again, going back to the sports, pick up the ball and run with it. I mean, to be in a portable as a judge, I think a lot of other people would be like, hey, this isn't right, or I deserve more, or whatever. But I think you kind of picked up with it and said, hey, this is a job, so we got to get it done.
That's right. I mean, it is definitely a job. It is what I do. It is not who I am. Yep. And I think that's important to keep focus on. It is what I do during the day. It is not who I am. It doesn't define me. I always talk about the fact that I'm a father, a husband, a member of our community. And what I do during the day is I'm a judge, and I have a job to do. And so sometimes that makes it easier for me to recognize that, don't take what you do too seriously, because we have jobs to do. And
you're right. And what you said following that is you're still dad, and you're still somebody's husband, right? So,
and someone's son too,
right?
Yeah.
Son, right?
Yeah.
So what you do during the daytime, whether it's laying concrete or a judge, or that's what you do from 8 to 5. Yeah. And
it's a job,
right? It's your job.
It's something that we've chosen to do. I mean, and it's something that I take pride in. It's something that I make sure that I uphold the integrity of what it means to be a judge. When my parents, by the way, when I was a lawyer and I was officing with them, so I'd see them all the time, every day. And I remember one day going in and talking to my mom and dad about wanting to run for political office and wanting to be a judge, and they said no. And they were like, no, mijito, don't do it. And I was like, but I want to. And I just expected my parents to say, yes, let's do it. And, for them to tell me no, you're doing well. You got a good office here. You've got a good practice. You're doing very well for yourself. Why would you want to put yourself out there? It took them probably about 2 months before they came back, and they came in to my office one day, and they came in together, and they were like, so you still want to do this? And I said, yes, I want to do this. And they're like, okay, well, now we're going to win. And I think that's where I get that. I think that's where I get that drive. It was like, my mom was like, well, then we're going to win, and we're not going to do this, and we're going to go, and we're 100%. But my mom and dad were very protective of me wanting to run for political office. But shortly after that, we got our family together, and my dad's family is a very big family. The Maldonados are a big family, and my dad, kind of rang the bell and got all the cousins together, and uncles that were still alive at the time, and my aunts, and basically it was a Sunday afternoon, tardeada, and it was like, Omar has something he wants to tell you. And so everybody kind of knew at that point, but I stood before them and I told them I'll never do anything to disparage our family name. And I'll never do anything that will make you not proud of what I do and who I am. And so I think at that point, my parents felt a little bit more comfortable in saying, okay, community, here he is. And so, you just carry that with you. But, again, lessons that you learn on the football field.
It is. I mean, just like they say, you're playing for them right now. I mean, obviously in high school, they don't have names in the back but it's like you're playing for the name in the front, but I tell my kids all the time, it's like you go out there in the community, your last name is not just yours. It's a lot of people's, so with that last name. So I'm guessing you're related to Pepe?
My dad's cousins. Yes.
Okay.
So yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, because when you said Maldonado, I was like,
Yeah.
it is a big family.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's a local
Right.
legend.
Yeah, I think
So-
if I'm not mistaken, him and my dad are first or second cousins. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely in the family. Yeah.
Cool deal, man. It's an awesome thing to hear, and I think we resonate. And I think Ben and I kind of resonate with it. And like you said, it's like you have the drive to give back. To me, it's like the pride in our community. Like I mean, and I've grown. The pride has grown. Here in the last couple of years. And I never always decided from the get go I wasn't going anywhere. I moved out to San Manuel, so it's like that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to go much further
That's
than that.
far enough.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like your pride in your community gives you that.
Takes you 20 minutes to get home.
Yeah, no shit.
The rest area in
So
between.
it's really cool, man, to kind of hear that. But with that being said, obviously you've done great things in the law side of your life. Let's talk a little bit about Barrel House and obviously that other part. And you decided to kind of take that business and come back to Edinburgh. How did that happen?
So, like I mentioned, the fourth hardest thing I've ever done in my life is to open up a restaurant. And, people ask me, like, did you always want to open up a restaurant? And the answer is no. I had no idea that that's something I wanted to do. But what I can say is that, here's a 10-year-old kid whose mom and dad bought a building for investment purposes and turned it into a bar. And my dad named it the Cubbyhole. And so, I also kind of say this story, and people that know me very, very well know that as growing up as a kid, I'm a huge fan, and still to this day, huge fan of the sitcom Three's Company. And so back when I was about 10, 12, 13 years old, I watched Three's Company religiously every night. It was just something that was on TV, right? So when my dad was trying to come up with a name to name the Cubbyhole, I was really upset when he didn't name it the Regal Beagle, because that's the bar.
Well, good for your dad.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, my dad knew. My dad was onto something by not naming it that. But my mom and dad bought the Cubbyhole when I was 10, and so growing up in high school, like I mentioned, the pregame meals that my parents would host along with other parents in the back, the spaghetti dinners that we would have on Thursdays before games. I grew up there. I grew up on the weekends, mowing the yard and cleaning the tables. And, back then they had carpet inside the bar. And so vacuuming on a Sunday and on the weekends. And so I would take, I guess a case of beer, the 24 case of beer to the recycling center. And I knew that 4 cases of beer, you'll know this, right? I don't know how much is how much is a case cost now? Back then, I'll tell you that it was 25 cents.
Well, no, so
Aluminum.
now it's probably triple the amount. But now there's no more 12 ounces. I mean, now it's 24 ounces.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're exactly right. Right now it's at about 75 cents a pound.
So back then, it was
Yeah.
a case of beer was 25 cents. If I took 4, that was $1. And my dad would accumulate them over the week, and he wouldn't throw them away. He would stack them up in the back. And then on Saturday, he and I would go and take them to the recycling center so that I can have a little bit of cash. So mowing the yard and taking the cans to get recycled, that's what he would give me so that I could take my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, out to the movies.
Don't forget to recycle your stuff.
So, but again, that's the backstory about how, the Cubbyhole came along. I went off to college. My dad leased it for 27 years. Mom and dad leased it.
So when the cubbyhole is still your parents, I'm trying to think back.
Yes.
Cubbyhole is still your parents. Across the street, there's a place called Cadillac Jack's.
Right.
And right next to it, the Echo Motel's got a bar.
Correct. Tropicana.
So it was kind of like the
maybe the main hub of entertainment in Edinburgh.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I just thought about that right
Well, I
now.
never
Wait
thought
a
of it,
minute.
but yeah, but you got the Tropicana, you had Cadillac Jack's across, bowling alley, was it? Or
Bowling alley
and
slash-
billiards and
right, yeah.
and a bar, and then
And
you
Pizza
had
Hut, of course.
and then you had the Echo. I mean, then you had the cubbyhole right there.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So when I left to college, mom and dad leased out the property out to 4 different owners that operated it. 4 different owners throughout the course of 27 years, until 2018, and then in 2018 they left it vacant. Last tenant, left it, and then my dad couldn't lease it anymore. Nobody was really interested in leasing it. My dad thought about, well, what if I turn it into a restaurant? But at the time, dad didn't know what it was going to take to really convert a building like that into a restaurant. And, he thought, well, just put a grill and let's make some burgers.
Yeah.
But the city, requires, grease pits and grease, traps and all that kind of good stuff. So in 2018, it was vacant, and it was vacant for about a year. And then one day, very similar to the conversation I had with them years back about wanting to be a judge, I went to my dad and I said, hey, I'd like to turn it into a restaurant. What do you think? And he's like, Mijito, you're doing so well. Like, no, don't get into this. Like, what are you thinking?
So the whole conversation
all over again.
Right.
All over again. And so, it was like it was full circle all over again, where they were like, no, like, you're a judge. What are you thinking? Like, how can you mesh these two worlds, the restaurant industry, the world of restaurant, bar, and being a judge, and how do you do that? And so they were like, no, we're going to lease it out. Let's not do this. Let's not. And I think that, again, it took them a couple of months, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, so you still want to do this, right? Okay. And, we started construction, and we started, starting small. The idea was to turn it into something very similar to what you might see at, Tower Burger, with a bar concept in it. Sure. A Tower Burger, a burger place in Edinburgh with a bar. And then COVID hit. And so, one of the things about COVID is that it allowed us to kind of take a step back from our life, right? It allowed us to go back and reflect on our families, reflect on what we're doing, reflect on, just it slowed things down to probably, how many generations do you think? I mean, COVID in and of itself slowed us down to the 1950s.
Oh, yeah.
Where we were doing things that they were mainstream in 1950, 1960, which was to...
We all sat in the living room together.
Enjoyed each other's company.
Yeah.
Walked the neighborhood. We would kind of go out there and get our exercise, because we weren't going to gyms. We were walking. We were bike riding with our kids. We were, throwing the football, throwing the baseball out, and trying to stay away from each other because of the unknown. It really kind of slowed things down. Well, what it did for me was it allowed me the opportunity to think about, well, what can I do with this building? And then what if I add this? And what if I add that? And what if I, buy some property from this landowner? And what if I buy some property from the Echo? And the idea started to flow, and then it turned into what it is today, which is not what it was, or what the idea was at the beginning. Yeah.
And the cool thing is that the first time I walked in there years back, you walk down to the back and you have the old sign there. So that's the original old sign. You're tearing down the cubbyhole, and what's your thought on, we're taking that down, but we're going to put it inside the restaurant?
So by that point, my dad had already passed away. My dad died of COVID, and so it was more of a me trying to kind of keep that alive. If you've been to the Barrel House, you see my dad's picture is in the front, right? And that's a mural that we had painted of him. It's the last picture I have of him before he passed away. And so, to put that picture, or to put the picture up on the building means a lot to me. And then to have the cubbyhole sign there means a lot to me too, because he named it. I mean, that's going back to, I wanted Regal Beagle, he wanted cubbyhole, and so dad, but that's the original sign. And
you see, so that story now that we know, I mean, we can connect to that. That's an amazing
There's a
story,
reason.
right? Most people walk in and say, "Hey, that's just the old cubby hole sign," and that's just badass, right? But now that we can connect it, I mean, there's a whole reason behind.
Just like there's a reason for the picture in the back of
Right.
Our senior year, coming through the tunnel, and it means so much to so many different students that are in that picture. And I've had a lot of friends, players that I graduated with that have come and they try to find themselves in that picture because they know that they're in that picture. So, yeah.
Very cool.
That is very, very cool, actually. And again, it's becoming a very popular place in the sense of like, it is somewhere you want to go for lunch. It is somewhere you want to go in the afternoon, and relax. Again, one of the first times, the second or third time that I went was, Ben's 54th birthday? I don't know what it was.
35th birthday last year.
One of those birthdays. And it was
There you
awesome.
go.
It was
We'll stick to that.
35th last year.
It was one of those places where I didn't know it even had that stuff in the back, so, and again, it goes back to the fact of again, you've become a very, prominent person here in the community, and you're giving back in that sense. Even though it's a business, you're still giving back in the sense of the history of it, in the sense of the memories that it does bring back with what you're putting up, and it in some way, shape, or form, it's still giving back to the community, and it's a really cool thing that you're doing, man. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a lot of work. I say, fourth hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Because it's a brand new. Like I said, when my mom and dad told me no about building it and about turning it into a restaurant, I think they understood based on the fact that they had done it for 8 years and run a business. And I remember as a kid, my mom and dad getting home super late, because they close it.
Yep.
They were there. They were operating it. They were got to clean it. They had to make sure that they were there to deal with the day-to-day operations, even though I think they had maybe one or two managers that would kind of manage it while they were, running their other business, because that wasn't their primary business. This was more of an investment for my dad. But I got to see that the hard work that it took to do that. And so, I think now the hard work that it takes to build up a business, as both of you guys know, it's not something, it may be portrayed as one thing, right? As hey, you guys it's awesome. It's a great place. It's fun. It's this. And no, there's a lot of work.
Sure
there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of worry. There's a lot of controlling all the things that, inevitably will go wrong. As a matter of fact, just today we had our exhaust fan go out on us. And so, if your exhaust fan goes out in a restaurant our size, you better have somebody there ready to fix it in a minute's notice. Otherwise, the whole restaurant is going to start smelling like burgers and whatever's being cooked. That's right. So you're constantly adjusting to the day-to-day operations, and that's what I think has made it the most difficult and challenging. But it's like any other business, right? Sure. I mean, I didn't come from a background of restaurants. So my brother-in-law, I will say, my brother-in-law is an executive chef in Dallas. My sister married my brother-in-law, Chad, and he's a chef in Dallas. So he has so much experience in the restaurant industry that I kind of leaned on him to kind of help about how do we set up the kitchen? How do we set up a menu? How do we set up the to understand the foods that kind of go together so that we're not just, shotgunning things and throwing them on the wall. So I cheated in that respect of having that great asset in my brother-in-law, who had opened up several restaurants for other businesses in Dallas and was named best chef in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And so, he has a great following and a big, kind of,
well,
experience.
With that being said, my next question was going to be, because your menu is fantastic. I mean, I think I've eaten pretty much one of everything there on your menu, and it's so good. What's your favorite plate at your restaurant?
Gosh,
I mean,
I love the ribs. I think our ribs are phenomenal, and I will if usually we obviously cook our slabs of ribs, and then for every order, whether it's 4 bones or 8 bones, there's inevitably going to be some bones that are left over. So my go-to at the end of the night is how many bones are left over, because we can't do anything with them. So I'll piece some bones together, and and it's like, put them on the grill. That's dinner, because you're cutting slabs into portions for our guests, but inevitably you're always going to have that 1 or 2 tailbone that's going to be left over. And so, man, put that on the grill, put a little bit of barbecue sauce. What else is left over?
Right.
And so my go-to is immediately to the ribs and saying what's left over so that I can eat that. So I guess
cool.
ribs.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we and we've done the salads, we've done the salmon, we've done the ribs, we've done the burgers, we've done. I mean, everything's so good.
Yeah,
Every
thank you.
single time.
Yeah, we try. Inevitably, it's a process, right? We didn't nail it immediately. I think the biggest problem that when we came in is, and again, I leaned on my brother-in-law a lot, and he brought in some of the flair of North Texas. And I don't know if the Valley is necessarily ready for that to some extent, grits and things of that sort that, sure. We wanted to be different, but we also understood that in order to run a successful business, you have to give people what they want, what they're looking for on a Friday night. If they're going to go out and try something, give them what they want and give them what they're accustomed to in a different way, in a new environment, watching a band, for example, on a Friday or Saturday night so that they can enjoy themselves with, friends, or whether they're there for a birthday party like they were there with you and when 35th. You came over, 35th. But I think that's been it's not a struggle, it's been the process. I think it's a process. It's not a struggle, it's a process of, trying to make it better. But my brother-in-law says everything happens by mistake. We have our pork chops that have a sauce on top that happened by accident. And so, things happen sometimes by accident because you're constantly working with ingredients. And sometimes the greatest things that happen not by design, but by accident. Right. And so in the restaurant industry, I think that's true. And so, I'm there. If I'm not I tell people, if I'm not at the courthouse on the bench and I'm not asleep, I'm at the restaurant. Those are the 3 things I do. And so I've learned so much from being there. And my favorite place in the entire restaurant, if you go, is what I call the expo. All right. The expo is a window where we get our screen and we get to see all the orders that are coming in. And so my job is almost, again, going back to sports, it's like being the quarterback. You're reading the defense as a quarterback. You're audibling. You're seeing where the defense is lined up, where the linebackers are, where your receivers are. If you got to audible out because they're in a position that they know they're going to stop you, you audible. You're the quarterback. That's the quarterback's job. And so the expo in a restaurant is the person who's at the window looking at the entire kitchen and making sure that everything is where it needs to be at the time it needs to be, because my goal is to have an entire table's order underneath the heat lamp, ready to go by my servers within a minute's time. And so I cannot, one of the biggest things that I worry about is, and it's really one of my issues is I don't want, for example, fries to be sitting there for 5 minutes because the burger wasn't ready, because the fry side dropped the fries way too early. And so now you have fries that are finished and they're getting cold. And so when the food,
details,
all the details. And so when the fries come out within 1 minute of that burger hitting that board, the fries are coming out. And so it's run on this, go on that, hold on that. Are we good on that? How are you doing on that? Is the salad ready? And so you're literally audibling to every person, every member of the team. And so that's the expo. And so that's what I take pride in, because I've learned how to run it. I've learned the importance of it. So sometimes, even like tonight, being here with you guys, and letting my managers take control of that. Right. For somebody like me who is quasi OCD, it's hard because you're giving that responsibility to someone else and you're trusting that they are going to do it exactly the way you do it. But you guys know that. I mean,
yeah, no, and again, it's something that we do know and something that we have. Ben's done it for a lot longer than I have, but that's going to bring on the next question, and really it's a way to kind of. I like using this podcast as a way for, like Ben said, people to learn things. We did the tailgate thing last week, and people can go back and kind of, check it out, look at the rules, and kind of get some ideas that we talked about. But this particular one, I had a mindset of, okay, there's a lot of people out there, and I think Steve Harvey said it, that want to jump. They want to take that jump and take that risk, and a lot of times it's hard, and everybody has a different story, and hopefully I think all 3 of us can have a different one, and we'll have our opinion here in a bit, but we'll start with you first. what characteristics do you feel a person needs, and maybe not needs, but are going to be an advantage to someone if they have that characteristic to be able to run a successful business?
And again, I hate to beat on a dead horse, but I think it's, what I learned on a football field. It's the discipline of, long hours, hard work. And, it's hard sometimes that you sit back and you tell yourself, what am I missing out on? Like, what am I missing in life? Am I missing an opportunity to maybe spend a little bit more time with my kids as they grow older, and they're getting older quickly? Yeah. But the discipline I think that I learned on a football field is now translating itself into what it took to run for political office and get elected, number one, and then now, operating and managing a restaurant. And I hope that my kids learn that hard work pays off. And I hope that they see that in what I'm doing and what I've done, so that they can try to instill that value in themselves, so that they can understand that even though I may not be there, I'm there for every sporting event. I don't miss. But even if I'm not there, for dinner, because I'm at the restaurant, that they recognize why. Yeah. That they recognize why is dad not here, and they recognize that it's because of a goal or because of something that I'm trying to accomplish. And so that hard work and that how do you plant the seed? I learned it from my parents, and I've told my mom this numerous times. I said, "You made me this way," and so by making me this way, I think that I am who I am now. I guess to answer your question, I think I go back to you have to have a little bit of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. You have to be, attention to detail oriented. It's the details. The devil is in the details. It's the making sure that the plate is clean as it goes out, making sure that the food is the right temperature before it goes out, making sure that the presentation is there, making sure that when I show up to my restaurant, the first thing I do is I tell people I'm in the hospitality industry, right? Owning a restaurant. How a person feels the moment they park in the parking lot. Is it well lit? Do they feel safe getting out of their car and walking into the building? When they walk in, what does it look like? Is the lighting right? Does it smell good? Is it appealing to when a customer walks in?
Are the restrooms clean?
Are the restrooms clean? How's the music? Is it too soft, too loud? So everything is about how I make a customer feel. Yep. So whether it's what they smell, what they see, what they feel, what they taste, and how it, all engaging all the senses. And I think that, if you would ask me this, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that answer. I wouldn't have been able to say, hey, this is what hospitality really is. But over the last 2.5 years, I've come to understand what it means. And I want customers to feel the way I would feel. And if they're not getting that feeling, if you're not constantly looking at what your customers are, their experience, and picking up on nonverbals and being able to say, hey, send a server because that person is looking around and is looking for something. They may need something, or, you see a customer walk out of the bathroom and they're shaking their hands. Well, that tells me that in the ladies' restroom, even though I don't go in there, right, there's paper towels that are missing, and all those little things that I think we learn, right? But whatever industry we're in, I think you have to be so attention to detail oriented in order to make it successful, because if you're not, then, the customer notices. The customer notices coming into a restroom and it not being clean. The greatest compliment we are often paid is the restrooms are amazing. They're clean. They look beautiful. That means your kitchen must be the same way. And the answer is yes. I mean, I'm so attention to detail oriented on every aspect of the restaurant that, the kitchen is no different.
That's awesome. And I know, again, it's a whole other.
I said it all, man.
Don't dodge the question. And I think, again, he did say an amazing. I mean, I think to kind of summarize it again, attention to detail is going to be, you need to be someone who is going to be very detail oriented. And I think that's for everything.
I mean, look, compliment to you, right, Fabian? I mean, you come into this place and it's amazing, right? The lighting, the displays. You come in here. I just want to come in here and just kind of hang out for a while. Yeah. I want to come in here and just check out what you have, and whether it's a cap, fishing equipment, rods, T-shirts,
or just a chat.
Yeah, but
appreciate it.
But I promise you, it didn't happen by accident.
Yeah,
it happened with a lot of hard work. It happened with you going home and thinking about it, and then coming over here, and then thinking about it again, and whether, what am I going to put on the walls, and how does this flow, and is it working? Is it not working? Is it moving? Is something not selling? So, advertising, how do you do it? What do you do? I mean, kudos to you, because I want to come in here and just hang out for a while and just check it out.
That's a big reason we kind of put the tables. We do get. I mean, I always tell my wife, sometimes I feel like a therapist. You get some people want to talk fishing, and eventually that fishing conversation becomes something else. And they start talking. I mean, I've had a lot of hard conversations with people, and it's funny because they do want to talk fishing, but eventually it becomes like a problem they have in their life, and it's like, man, like. I gotta listen. I can't just say, "Hey, man, I'm busy. I gotta go to the back."
Yeah. And it always comes back to salt therapy.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
Exactly right.
So, I know it's way different, Ben, but I mean, and you've been very successful, and not only with G3, man, but Vaquero Outfitters with you and your wife, of course, has become very successful. What characteristic that was instilled maybe by your parents, but what's something that you feel that, hey, if I didn't have this, it may not be where it's at.
For me, and I'm a lot like the judge here, where things didn't happen because that was my plan. It was just kind of fell into place. Yep. And I've shared the story of the whole Vaquero Outfitters, and I didn't know a lick of retail. I mean, I knew how to go buy a cap, how to go buy some shirts and go buy, but I didn't know anything about retail. And one day, dropping off little Ben at A&M, you're a little lighter in the pocket because you go to those stores up there, and $400 or $500 later, you're driving home and you're saying, okay, we got enough stuff for the season. You drive up 2-3 weeks later. $400 or $500 later, we were like, wait a minute, what just happened here? We did the same thing at the retail store again. Think it's called Aguilan
Outfitters, right? Yeah.
And so second time around, I tell my wife, I said, we're driving down. I said, somebody ought to open a store like that for UTRGV. They're getting a football team. Things are looking good. The baseball stadium's kind of picking up. Basketball's doing okay. Volleyball is doing fantastic. And she said, somebody should. And 10 minutes down the road, I'm like, you know what? I got an idea. And she's like, no, do not.
She was my parents to you.
Yeah.
No, don't.
That's right.
Yeah, don't.
So I said, you know what? Let me just call somebody first. See, maybe they'll sit down with us. So called the athletic department. I don't know why we called them, but called them, and they were gracious enough to sit with us over lunch, and this is our idea, or this is my idea. What do you think? And they said, you'll be the first of the kind, but I think it's a good idea. I said, that's all I needed to hear. Call Fabian on the way out from the restaurant. Say, hey, Fabian, I got this idea, this and this and this. And what do you think? Fabian says, I think it's a great idea. So, I mean, again, didn't know anything about retail. And I mean, we took our bruises along the way. I mean, we got hit hard with learning that licensing, approvals, NCAA, UT system, they're not your friends immediately. I mean, they're your enemies.
So and I hate to interrupt.
No.
But how does NIL come into play at this level? I mean, can you use maybe a volleyball player, basketball player, football player's name, image, and likeness, and how does that going to work?
So the university, because when it was brand new last year for UTRGV, we started doing that. University said, okay, well, we're going to be the middlemen, right? And we said, fantastic. So you walk us through it. Then all of a sudden this year, we reapproached the idea of, hey, we'd like to get a few football players, a few baseball players, their stuff in store. They said, we'll set you up with them, but we no longer deal with you guys. You deal directly with them, and there's paperwork in between, but you guys deal directly with it. So university has taken a step back and saying, hey, you know what? While we can provide you the player, you guys deal with the legal battle or the legal amongst
the contract, because they're able to enter into their own contracts.
right? So whether it's $100 or $10,000 to do a commercial or whatever it is, it's directly with the player. So the player is its own agent pretty much at this point. In which they do, I think, is the rule is they do have to follow certain protocols within the university, and I think there might be somebody that is a player agent, but they pick and choose if they want to do a commercial for an attorney that does car accidents or an attorney that that does just divorces, so they're their own bosses at this point, So, and again, whether it's $1 or $10,000. So the NIL, to answer your question, is, from what I understand, is jerseys that are put up, they get royalties, just like the university would get royalties. Right. So their royalty is 10% or 20% of any T-shirt or jersey that says Maldonado behind it. I mean, they get a check at the end of every month. They get a check at the end of the season. They get, or however the contract chooses to be. It's their money. It's their money. And so we say, hey, you know what? We want a jersey that says Maldonado. He's going to hit, we project he's going to hit 40 home runs this season. And you hit one home run, it doesn't matter.
The contract was signed, and the contract's there.
And you're getting paid for every shirt that we sold that has your name on it.
That's interesting.
So, I mean, it's pretty cool for these players,
But I would imagine it's a whole other learning process for you.
Oh yeah. So we're still actually learning. I mean, I gave you just the basics of the minimum of what I know today, but I mean, it just seems that we're just every week we just get new rules and regulations, which is fine, no big deal, because we're still brand new at this whole retail stuff. If you ask me, I mean, we're puppies still, but the university has just, and you know this, you've seen this. You had a lunch and learn today at your restaurant,
right?
It just seems that it's one of those. It's not a puppy; it's like a Labrador. They're cute because they're small, but then they just get huge real quick.
They get big,
right? And that's the university right now. You know,
it's growing.
It's just on pace to be. Just as big as a Power 5 here in the next few years.
Absolutely, yeah.
And but yeah, so going back to that, the store. I mean, G3. I've done scrap metal for 23 years now. The store's brand new, so I love taking on new things, and whether it's the small things but a lot of those things were instilled since very young for me, because for me, doing something new or trying to fix a bike when I'm 7 or 8, or taking the bearings out and putting bearings from a 10-speed in there and trying to make it faster, trying to have that edge from all the other kids in the colonia, because I did this to it or added extra grease, or that was what I did, because I wanted the edge. I wanted to be faster. I wanted to be stronger, so whatever it took, I mean, that's what it was. It wasn't about, oh, damn, like, I would love to do that, but I can't afford it. It was more about, what do I need to do to be there?
Yep.
What extra stuff do I have to do? It was never about, shit, I just can't, ni modo. It was never about ni modo. It was more about, what do I got to do to get there? So, I mean, from an early age. And again, that is from my parents, from my grandparents, and seeing that, hey, it's just hard work. At the end of the day, hard work for me. But I can go on and on about
absolutely.
This,
yeah, I think we all can go. And then and again, the people ask me, how do you define success? And I'm like, well, success is where are my children going to end up? Right. That's success. Success is, are my grandchildren, doing well? Because did I lay the foundation for my kids, right, and did they lay the foundation for their children? And so when you're at at that moment of your death, are you comfortable knowing how you left the world? Oh, and yeah. So, again, the problem is, and again, we could probably make another podcast out of this, is whether today's kids are ready and have those skills that we acquired, whether it be, learning from our family, learning from a football coach, learning from a basketball coach, learning from a cheerleading coach. I mean, where did they get it? Where are they getting it from? Or are they just so fixated with a phone? And, I remember encyclopedias.
Oh, yeah.
And if I needed to do a research paper, I'd go to UT Pan Am
Or
or the
your local
library, or your
right,
local
right,
library. Yeah. Well, since, but now, hey, Google.
Yep.
And AI is taking us in a completely
Other
different
level, yeah.
direction.
Oh, yeah.
So is that making our kids softer, so to speak? Is it making them more dependent and not, are they losing that edge of work ethic and drive and desire?
It is. It's a great point, and again, just to, I think at the same time, like, we use the tools we had, that at our disposal. Like you said, an encyclopedia. My grandma across the street or next to us had an encyclopedia. We ran over there. We needed to know something. And, but now, like I tell my kids all the time, you have so many tools, man. I mean, you can be 100 times smarter than I was in my age because you at your age, because you have it at the palm of your hands.
But is it making them lazier?
It kind of, it may. Yeah,
and the three of us, I think, have the one foundation, I think, now in listening to y'all's story is hard work.
Yeah.
Right.
And so hard work, there's no substitute for it. We've heard it before. We've seen it. We've lived it. And so, but if it comes easy for our kids because they have to just look it up and type in something on AI and it types up a report.
Yeah, you're right.
Are they getting softer? Are they not prepared for the world? Because the world, I don't think, is going to change as fast as technology is changing. So therefore, they still have to have the hard work. They still have to understand the value of discipline, understand the value of figuring things out and being creative in how you do things. And that's what I hope my kids get from this, so that they can see dad at the restaurant till midnight or thereafter. And yes, I mean, do we sacrifice certain things because of our careers and what we do? Yes. But we try to limit that we're there for the events, that we're there for their experiences, but at the same time that they're taking from it, and I would encourage, I hope my kids see this, and I hope that they understand, because I tell them enough, but hearing it from you guys, sometimes kids have to hear it from someone else and not necessarily from their kids, because dad, and they roll their eyes and they just shut it down. Here we go again. But if they're hearing it from you guys, it's kind of like, here are three, professionals in different fields. And I think the foundation of what we can take from this is that hard work, discipline, dedication. And we learned it from our folks.
Yeah. And more hard work.
And more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fabian, you get the floor now. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, again, you said, Judge said it the best. We do have the same. Hard work is always going to be the foundation to everything. And I think going back to the sports, and I tell my kids all the time, you got to be competitive. I tell my guys all the time, the team here at the shop, I was a coach. I coached for 14 years, and it's like I'm very competitive. And when we have the war board in the back, there's a way that has to be run. And I tell them all the time, we're not, and Sam, my business partner, is big on this. We're not going to just have, money transactions. We're going to have relationship transactions. And that's what we hopefully have been accomplishing, is like, we want to have a relationship with our customer where they're going to come back, not because they're going to come and get a shirt, but because they want to come and, like you said, have a conversation and just ask, hey, how y'all doing? And eventually, it'll become a sale in maybe 6 months. But it's a very relationship-based transaction that we do. And like I tell them, we're competitive, and I want to beat people that are in my same field, not because I don't like them, but because I want to be better. I mean, and then you have to have that drive to be better. It's not an arrogance. It's more of a, why, if you're not going to strive to be the best, then why strive at all?
Right.
And along those ways, you kind of learn these things, and you kind of learn how to work with people. And, in the business we're in, it's customer service is king, and that's 100%. And I get people come in here, and I love it. It's happened twice to me already. If you do something wrong, Facebook, it's going to be on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy.
That whole thing.
Yeah. And to me, like, it was such an awesome, experience to have and I think I posted it on Facebook. I had a veteran come in. I had 2 flags out there, and I stopped putting them out because they keep breaking. But I had 2 flags out there, American and Texas, and I had a veteran come in, and very nice, came in, shook my hand, asked if I was the owner. I said yes. He's like, I want to show you something. Came in out there and showed me how I put the flags wrong. That's all he did. He's like, I just want to let you know, sir, that they are wrong, whatever. I went right after to switched them up, and that was it. I'm like, anyone else would have blasted it on Facebook and said, hey, this is what it is. And I told him, like, I mean, I really appreciate it. He goes, no, because I mean, I wanted you to be correct, and he came back and became a customer, and I didn't tell him, well, I don't care, I'm going to put him the way I want to put him. And which, man, maybe other people would have said that, but one, I respect veterans a lot. And two, I mean, for him to take the time to come and just educate me on something like that, goes back to the things like you're learning every day, and you're learning what people want to see. Because I'm sure he wasn't the only veteran. He was just the one that was just, hey, I better go tell this guy something, So it's been really, really cool experience in the past 6 years that we've been doing this, to have those relationships. And one of the biggest things, and to kind of summarize it, is you got to be very competitive. And you have to have great customer service in whatever you do. And obviously you do. Ben, I've gone into his shop, and his team is amazing. So it's one of those things where the customer service is king when it comes to the service industry. And, I think that's it.
Yeah, one of the things that you guys, in your field, merchandising, and, we're all competing against the big box realtors, right? I mean, Academy, Costco, Walmart's. And for us in the restaurant industry, we're competing against Texas Roadhouse, Cheddar's, Olive Garden. And I tell my staff, we don't get a second chance. If a person has a bad experience with us, they'll give Olive Garden 100 chances.
Oh, yeah.
They won't even give us one. So we need to be on top of our game at all times. And if we're not on top of our game, because inevitably we're human, we need to apologize. We need to make it right, and we need to fix it to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so that attention to detail is really, I think, what kind of makes what will eventually lead to someone's success. Because if you're not attention to detail oriented, unfortunately, we don't have marketing dollars that, you're going to see from Chick-fil-A, and you're going to see from, these big box franchises that have the chains, Papa Do's. They have millions and millions of dollars that they pump into our everyday life, whether it's news, radio, and we're small business owners. Yep. And to be able to be successful in small business owners, we have to be very strategic about where we place our money, how we advertise, if we're able to advertise, if we have enough after payroll to be able to advertise. And like I tell my servers and my managers, we don't get a second chance. They won't give us that. And so it's important, and I can see it. I can see it here.
I tell these guys all the time. It's like, and again, it works both ways. And I tell them, like, someone else's mistake could be, we take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's your advantage.
But it works the other way as well.
And it works much faster in the other way.
And I go, we mess up, right, man, and that can be a customer that's gone. And I tell them all the time, and I tell my customers all the time, like, it's gonna happen. We're human. We're gonna have a mistake, and we're gonna mess up at one point. But it's how we're going to fix it, and how we're going to rectify the problem. And that's pretty much, the thing is that there needs to be some type of solve, to the problem. And, at the end of the day,
in a nutshell, for those of you that are viewing this, becoming a business owner is becoming a head coach. I mean, it really is. You get your team, and you got to become that head coach that says, hey, this is my pep talk. Let's go out and execute, I mean, you do it to your team. Fabian does it to his. We do the same at the store. We do the same at the scrap metal yard. So, I mean, something's going wrong. You're the head coach. You got to figure out. It's halftime. You gather the troops, and you make the adjustment.
That's right.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is about that. And like I said, I think it goes back to hard work and what you want to do with it. Man, I can't thank you enough, honestly, for being
hard,
out here.
Kids.
Work hard.
Work hard.
I mean, perfect example, man, of what hard work is going to get you. And I know you mentioned your dad passed, during COVID. And one thing that I tell my kids, when I do go, is I want to leave an amazing legacy with them. And I can tell you right now, man, your dad left a hell of a legacy in you.
Thank you.
And again, you've done a hell of a job, and you continue to do. And I just thank you so much for what you've done with us and your service, honestly.
I appreciate that.
You all. So, again, we have a little saying when we leave out here, man, is again, when whatever you decide to do out there, go out there and get those boots on and go ahead and vaquero up, man.
That's right.
Guys, Cowboys up, guys. Y'all see you later.